turn it down a little bit here. What up? How we doing? Happy Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. It has been a couple days since we've done a couple breakdowns. Hopefully, we can get baseball and basketball done today. Baseball is a ginormous slate. Basketball not so much, but it's all staggered, right? DraftKings coming at us with the early massive slate, looking like a Friday night, and FanDuel stuck with the 7 o'clock usual start time. So gives you a staggered opportunity. Luckily for us, we also have NBA staggered at 7:30, right? So 6:30, 7-ish, 7:30. So you can kind of run that gauntlet across the sites and make it out alive. Give yourself an opportunity to play each slate. Basketball, of course, hopefully, knock on wood, being the easiest to throw a blanket over it and control the news. But nonetheless, we're going to chop up game by game here. We have an athletics game that I believe is night or part 2 of a doubleheader. So it's not going to be on the FanDuel all-day slate, just on the DraftKings main slate. And then we'll go game by game throughout the rest of the slate. Hopefully I'll try and keep it as quick as possible. Last night I stayed up a little later than usual, coding in some of this year's metrics into the index portal on the RunDFS.com MLB spreadsheet. So I've officially started tracking pitcher performances against lefties and righties for this season, but I've left in the last 3 years, so you can kind of see that 4-year consistency chart to maybe project regression or progression. And then we've added the road splits in the 2021 metrics. Obviously, there's only a 2 starts, maybe 3 starts for some of these cats, sample size wise. So we're not going to overrate the 2021 performances just yet. However, it does allow us to at least kind of understand where guys are at thus far as they continue their 2021 campaign. If you guys want access to this spreadsheet, I believe it is the strongest research aid out there to allow you guys to do your own research, but also be guided with the proper stats all in one spot. It tracks the hitters versus pitchers platoons for the last 2 seasons. And then, of course, like I said, lists all the pitcher information. We also have the pitch report, the hitter rating chart featuring the bomb detector. Last night, important announcement if you guys didn't get it in the Discord, I did tweak the algorithm for the bomb detector. We've added barrel rate data from StatCast. So what I didn't do is adjust the mathematical equation to kind of stay to the 4 number. So some of these players will have, or a lot more players will have a number at 4 or greater. Nothing to be alarmed with, just kind of be cognitive of that. For instance, last night, Mike Trout on the bomb detector today went to like a 4.35, and I think he was going to be like a 4.15, and that doesn't mean every player is a 0.2 tenth of a number greater. It's adding the barrel rate to obtain data from the hitter and the barrel rate allowed data from the pitcher. What it's not considering yet is the split for barrels. It's just the overall, and I think that's still fine for the players that we're dealing with. So let's kind of keep that in mind. What's up, dang lazy mofo? What up, Earth to Air? What up, Pete? Happy Tuesday. I'm crossing out of the Minnesota game. 7-inning Detroit weather and Arizona weather. I feel that. Solid picks. What's up, buddy? So I will say this. Looking at that athletics game, one thing that we've seen in the last season or two, with these double headers being 7 innings, it's a lot easier for a pitcher to get a cheesy, cheap, complete game. And so if you're playing on drafting, not that like Sean Manaea or Shoemaker are specifically great, but both teams do have a low implied total. So if you're like, oh, it's not a great strikeout matchup, if they can steal 7 innings, that you get the complete game points, and heck, if they're not giving up a Ernie, complete game shutout, that's just kind of a cheap tactic. But like a lot of people write these games off, and it's not necessarily bad for the pitcher. It's also not necessarily bad for the offense, but this one isn't something like Athletics Twins. It's not something in particular I would go after for the park. The run totals on both of them are pretty low. We'll chop that up in just a second. Before we go forward, I do want to do a PrizePicks plug. If you guys have not tried PrizePicks yet, I definitely implore you guys to. The more I look up, the more people I see playing it on Twitter, a lot of winners and stuff like that. If you guys sign up using code GUNDACKER, you'll get up to $100 instant deposit bonus. It's that simple. $20 turns into $40, $100 turns into $200. And if you sign up, hit me up on Twitter, and I'll get you hooked up with a week of RunDFS.com VIP. That's access to the spreadsheets. The way that works is you say, hey, Gun, I signed up. Here's my name. And the next morning, I look for your name in the report that they send me. And boom, free week of RunDFS.com VIP. That simple. It's literally that simple. Let's get back to this spreadsheet. All right, so we're gonna navigate game by game here. I see a couple lineups for today have already come out. Again, it's a pretty big slate. Hopefully, I can get through this quick enough to get through the NBA offering as well. But we'll get cranked up here. Game numero uno, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the Twins at the Athletics. The first couple games are going to be DraftKings main slate specific. We got Matt Shoemaker up against Sean Manaea. Thus far, Shoemaker overall has bolstered a 3.31 SIERA and a 10.4% swinging strike rate on this season, and he's not walking batters. However, just 11 innings of work thus far. He's going against an Athletics team that is profiled pretty porously against righties this season, and it's also just underperformed at home. A 204 batting average against righties as a team, and under 200 at home. ISO's not great, and the strikeout potential is high, 25-28%. So I definitely think Shoemaker is one of those guys I might take that little stab on and hope to maybe sneak into a complete game if I can. The what is it? 7.7K. I'm looking for probably 16 to 20 fantasy points on this big of a slate. You probably really want 20 plus fantasy points from that starting pitcher spot. But you're seeing strikeout per inning potential in his last 2 games. I would like to see the swinging strike rate be a little bit higher if I'm going to play him for strikeouts. Just a 10.4% so far this season is whatever. But I do think there's room for progression on that. He's the guy that's going to throw that splitter quite a bit. And I'll tell you what, if you look at that pitch report, the Athletics do actually profile pretty well against the splitter. But whenever we see numbers this high, it's usually a product of small sample size, because you're usually not going to have a whole team profile 2 to 5 runs above average versus the field against a singular pitch. So my guess is they didn't see a lot of splitters or sinkers last year, and the ones that they did, they crushed. But just, I guess, be cognitive of that. Sean Manaea on the other side, he had a much stronger outing his last start than I expected. An under 4 SIERA thus far, 16 innings, an under 4 xFIP, and his swinging strike rate still 10.7%. So he's not a guy I necessarily play for strikeouts. He can get them if you need him to, but he's still somebody that I would just expect to be a little under a K per inning. Neither team are projecting extremely well. Matter of fact, the Twins have just a 3.2 implied run total. I'd be interested to see in what this lineup is if they get Byron Buxton back. Of course, if you guys didn't catch it, the Twins had their last 2 games postponed due to a COVID outbreak among the team. This is their return for guys against lefties, chipping chairs. I like Donaldson, Nelson Cruz, and Byron Buxton is somebody I'm hoping to see back in the lineup. And then Mitch Garver. Sometimes against a lefty, you'll see Mitch Garver lead off. Matter of fact, that's probably the correct projection here. So if you had Garver, Donaldson, Cruz, Buxton, I love that 1 through 4 a lot against any lefty, but especially against a lefty like Manaea, who can have an issue with home runs and power to righties. We haven't seen that big time the last couple of years, especially because of this home ballpark. But I do like those four as chip and chair options. But I'm not going to get overly enamored in this spot. I'd probably not be there on Athletics. Bullpen wise, the Athletics bullpen and Twins bullpen have been below average in home runs allowed. The Twins bullpen above average in strikeout percentage and almost a 270 batting average allowed. But the Athletics bullpen has been a little bit worse for power. So I'm kind of with that. Let's move on to the next game. Yankees hosting the Braves. Yankees trying to get right. The Atlanta Braves recovering from that Sunday night offensive explosion that was just very entertaining. And it featured Guillermo Heredia hitting not one but two bombs, including a grand slam. The Braves, real quick, a National League team going into an American League park, meaning they pick up the designated hitter spot. You babies to the game means instead of sending the pitcher up to the plate, they actually just get to have a bat that is dedicated to hitting today. So be curious to see who they use as their DH. Ronald Acuna and Ozzie Albies both have Q tags. You might see one of them just DH. I think you'll probably see Pablo Sandoval as the DH, just to go up there, swing the bat. Overall, this is a incredible park for the Braves to get right. Not get right, but for the Braves to continue their Sunday night onslaught. If Acuna is injured, that's a massive downgrade to the power of the offense and really just the overall fantasy value. He's a power and speed guy, but if he's able to go, I mean, I obviously I hate to go against Yankees pitching here, but Jameson Taillon so far has definitely shown some leaks. And again, this season against righties, a 286 average, a 169 home run per nine. Very, very small innings of sample size to overreact to it, but he's not somebody I can go to last year's sample size and be like, well, this is where he's going to get. He hasn't pitched really in years. So keep an eye on that and just kind of banking on talent. The Yankees bullpen still pretty weak. No Zach Britton. And then, of course, they've lost some of their more mainstay pieces in the middle of the bullpen, Tommy Kahnle, guys like that. So they're more so leaning on guys like Luis Sessa, Jonathan Loaisiga, Darren O'Day, guys like that to kind of bridge the gap between the starter and Aroldis Chapman. And it hasn't been pretty so far, with a lot of homers allowed, 4.61 home run per nine. Outside of that, they're not giving up a lot of hit for average stuff. So I do think the Braves are in a great spot offensively. They have a 4.1 implied run total against whatever Taillon's going to bring to the table. The Yankees are right now, based on pretty much every metric, the coldest team in baseball. And after a day off to reflect, to talk about it, you got to believe that there's been team meetings and hoorah speeches and whatnot. They're going to try and get right against Charlie Morton, which is easier said than done. Morton, a 30% K rate so far this season to righties and lefties, just under a 30%. With the higher average allowed to lefties, and the Yankees are going to come out pretty righty heavy more often than not. And one of those lefties that they'll throw out is Aaron Hicks, and he's been better from the right side of the plate, really, really significantly better this season. So definitely can understand the case from throwing some Charlie Morton. Yankees have struck out a 29% clip in the last week. And then across this lineup, there's a couple of guys reaching nearly 30% K rate over the course of the last 2 years against righties. So don't hate looking at Morton as a 8.1 SP2, get me 20 fantasy points type of guy. We've seen a lot of pitchers get to that threshold. I still think the jury's out on Jameson Taillon to know whether or not I'm going to pitch him. I don't think I'm going to take any shots on him against the Braves here. 6-8 on FanDuel, 9-2 on DraftKings. DraftKings seems to think higher of Taillon than most people do, because there's no sample size to base his price point at 9-2. I don't understand how that one came out, but I don't see myself playing any Taillon in this spot. Morton I could get to, and then both offenses I believe are very, very talented and wake up eventually. Hopefully the Yankees wake up today for my sake. But from a FanDuel perspective, I don't think I've ever seen the Yankees this collectively cheap with just Judge and Stanton, the two guys over 3,600. So definitely a more valuable stack on FanDuel. DraftKings is fine. And then the Braves, I'm right there on the Braves as well. Acuna has moved his price point to $6K, which is the price of some SB2s here and there. But, I mean, he's a do-it-all guy. He's a Merrifield on roids, man. A stolen base potential, power potential. He's just really, really good. So if he's in the lineup, definitely would be targeting him. And then Freddie Freeman's a professional hitter as well. So definitely give me some Brave stacks. Probably have a little bit of Yankee exposure. And then we'll go on to the next one. Orioles and the Marlins. So one of the things I've been watching with the Marlins over the weekend is them keeping the roof open, and it's been trapping me. Now, the Marlins did add a humidor, one of, I think, 10 teams. And there's by the way, if you guys didn't catch that, there's like 10 teams that added the humidor to their park. And we just know the humidor as something that impacts the baseball and creates less offense. Apparently, parks like Marlins Park, the humidor is supposed to help the offense. But this past weekend, man, they've had the roof open, 80-degree temperatures, and that humidor, and we just didn't see the offenses explode. And it's really gotten me into some trouble because I've been attacking that ballpark, the Giants and the Marlins. Now, you can still just argue that they're just bad baseball players, but something to at least be cognitive of going forward is that we're watching the results of what the humidor is doing in this ballpark. Right now, I got the roof listed as closed. I don't know if it's raining or whatnot, but if the roof is open, maybe just keep an eye on what the temperature might be. Obviously, the warmer the temperature, the more hitter-friendly. We got Matt Harvey against Nick Neidert. Nick the Anvil Neidert. Matt Harvey has been really, really generous to opposing hitters over the course of the last 3-4 years, and a lot of homers built into his metrics. This season, a 1.29 home run per night to righties, a 1.23 to lefties. 14 innings of sample size, one of the larger samples of any starting pitcher so far this season. So he's picking up where he left off. He does not strike people out. A 6.9% swinging strike rate is not as nice as it sounds. He's not missing bats, and he's allowing hitters to hit bombs. He does so far sustain a higher ground ball rate than fly ball rate, at least to righties. To lefties, it's a little bit more even, and so far this season it's been more fly ball to lefties, but the line drive rate very, very elevated to lefties. So Matt Harvey is definitely somebody you want to go out of your way to pick on. Marlins are a little hard to love, but Corey Dickerson, I believe, had one of the higher bomb ratings, a 4.12 rating. And then Adam Duvall has the propensity to break a slate. We saw a multi-homer game from him last week. So I definitely am right there on some Marlins players. It's hard to be overly enamored with the Marlins, especially after the weekend that they had where they weren't popping off offensively, but this is a incredible matchup against Matt Harvey, so I'll have to at least get to some one-offs here, even if I'm not loading up. Corey Dickerson, if he's 2,400, 3,100, really on DraftKings, I can't play him on FanDuel. I could see myself getting a lot of exposure to him. I think that's a little too cheap of a price point for a matchup made for a lefty like him. And then maybe Jazz Chisholm continues his little fun streak of power. So I'm there on a couple Marlins bats here. Nick Neidert. I don't have any big league sample size in the last 15 innings going back to the beginning of last year. He's projected not great. A Sierra and XFIP that's probably on average closer to 5 altogether. The whip has been really high to both sides, over a 1.5 whip to both sides of the plate, and no swing and strike stuff. So against the Orioles, these are two offenses that people will just not pay attention to, but these are two below average pitchers from the metrics that we're dealing with, and I do think that there are some hitters in this game worth attacking. I'd probably look at like an Anthony Santander, maybe a Trey Mancini, if I really wanted to dial in on Nick Neidert that wasn't just purely stack-centric. And then maybe some shots on like a Michael Franco, somebody like that. Usually when we get like a low swing and strike rate guy, a guy that's purely a contact guy, I like to look harder at the high strikeout guys. So like Adam Duvall has a 30% K rate to righties. Jazz Chisholm a 29%, and Jorge Alfaro a 34%. These are all numbers that can be heavily neutralized now because the pitcher they're going against does not have a lot of swing and miss stuff. So you're going to challenge him to make more contact, kind of like the Joey Gallo effect from years back. So if a hitter has a high K rate and a high hard contact rate, for instance, Jorge Alfaro has a 42.2% hard contact rate, and this is just an example, but a 34% K rate. It basically means he's swinging really hard and he misses a lot, but when he's not missing, he's hitting the ball pretty well to be qualified as a hard contact batted ball event. So guys like that, just kind of keep that nugget for future reference. And then, even on the other side here, the Orioles don't actually have a lot of egregious K rate guys, but that same thought process would be had against a 6% swing and strike rate Nick Neidert. So both offenses have one-off potential for me. DJ Stewart, see Tony, what's up, Tony? DJ Stewart bomb, yeah, I could get behind that. I wonder if he's got dots in his name. Why is the stats not pulling up here? Dots? Yeah, he does have dots. All right, I'm with that. Yo, what up, Tony? How we doing? Let's move on to the next game. Kind of keep it simple. I'm not playing either of those pitchers. Diamondbacks at Reds. Louis Castillo taking on Zach Gallen. Two better pitchers. As big as this DraftKings slate is, the pitching is like topped out at like Corbin Burns in a tough matchup, and like Chris Paddock, who hasn't been like super consistent in the last two seasons. So it's not like we're just given a lot of aces to choose from either. So this game features two guys that have ace-like potential, Gallen versus Castillo. Castillo so far this season, his metrics, advanced metrics, are better than his results. A 3.99 Sierra, 3.99 xFIP, but a 7.04 ERA. When you see numbers like that, you expect that ERA to go down. Not that 3.99 is like elite, but it's still not like gas canny, right? So we expect some luck to go his way. His swing and strike rate so far has dipped almost 3% lower than his average from the last 2 years. Kind of expect that to go up. And then the matchup here against the D-backs. D-backs so far this season, a 213 team batting average against right-handed pitching, a 23% K rate in the last 7 days, and a 25% K rate to righties on the season. There's not a lot of power built in these numbers, these splits for the last two seasons. What I will say is that this ballpark becomes one of the better ballparks for hitters on the slate. Maybe the temperatures being in the sub-50s neutralizes it a little bit, but it is a plus park for hitters. It does look like this is one of the games to have some rain concerns, so if you are taking notes, maybe asterisk that. And that's unfortunate because, like I said, these are probably two of the more actual skilled pitchers on the slate, and we definitely would want them in our player pool if we can eliminate any weather concern. Zach Gallen, last couple years, a very, very high strikeout rate to both sides of the plate. Last year, a 33% K rate to lefties and a 30% K rate to righties, 66 innings of sample size. Going back to 2019, we saw the propensity for those numbers with a high 28% K rate and 29% K rate to righties, and the swing and strike rate was over 11%. So the metrics are there suggesting he's for real. The Sierra and xFIP have been really, really good so far this season, but it's only 4 innings of sample size. Last year, the 401, the 386, fine. You'd like it a little bit lower than 4, but fine. So I would probably be interested in playing Gallen. Gallen just has some shots on talent. The Reds at home, they're just a pesky offense, and they have some potential to put up runs. Winker, Naquin, Suarez, even Votto. Votto's had a really good last week. Couple bombs and initiated a triple play, so good for him. Moose. Yeah, they're all all the guys that I really want to target are the lefties. I guess Eugenio Suarez is fine as well. Big price discrepancy, but a price gap between the FanDuel and DraftKings. But like I said, if you're gonna play this game on FanDuel, it's just the early only or the all day. So we're really just focused on the DraftKings price points here. Against lefties, Gallen has been really, really good. He does walk lefties so far this season. I think we can write that off because of sample size, but still a 9 to 10% walk rate. Elevated line drive rate. but the fly ball rate really, really low. So it's going to keep the ball on the ground, and line drives necessarily are not necessarily homers, more so like doubles and sharp liners, stuff like that. So I'd take some gambles on both pitchers here if the weather released them to me. If I have to worry about the weather, then I probably don't. But at the same time, I'd probably hedge stack some of the offenses as well. Wind blowing out to right field, so pretty good for lefty pull hitters. And I think we can get some power out of Winker and guys like that. I have Suarez with a bomb rating over 4, so something to keep an eye on, but he's one of those guys that the K percentage is really, really high. He's going against a strikeout artiste. On the D-back side, if you want to pick on Castillo, so far this season, he's been really, really leaky against lefties, and not that this is uncommon, but he does historically have more power issues to lefties. Last year, a 1.14 home run per nine. And you look at the last couple seasons, over a 1 home run per nine, and some walk problems the last 2 seasons against lefties. So if you can get him against a low strikeout lefty with some pop, sure. Cole Calhoun, 25% K rate, so he's not necessarily a low strikeout lefty, but he does have some pop, and this this wind could benefit him. David Peralta, yeah, Escobar's been pretty hot to start the year, but those are kind of just a couple of names that kind of stick out. Other than that, like I don't want to stack either offense based on their matchup, but because of the ballpark, I will get there. And both bullpens have been fine, actually. The Sierra of both bullpens under 4 right now, and the K rates are up there. They're letting some homers, but what are you gonna do, right? What up, Danny? Good morning. What up, Justin Sports? Hello, my love. Guys, I got Danny hooked on MLB The Show 21. We might do an MLB stream tonight after all the chaos of these locks. Pirates at the Tigers. Tyler Anderson taking on Michael Fulmer. This is one of those games that has heavy rain concerns, so if you're taking notes, asterisk weather. Matter of fact, let me mark this in the spreadsheet. I'm going to put it as orange. These are just me marking it. If you guys are Vipers, don't overreact. We're going to keep up with the weather news. Tyler Anderson up against Michael Fulmer. So on the surface, neither pitcher kind of reaching at me. Tyler Anderson over a 4 xFIP for his whole career, but the last 4 years. Last year, a 5.59 xFIP. This year, in 15 innings of sample size, the xFIP is dipped to just barely above 4. And the swing and strikeout stuff is higher. So he's trending in the right direction. The whip is still elevated, not what you want. So we'll keep an eye on that. On the Fulmer side, we're seeing some big drops in his numbers. So I probably want to investigate on this a little bit to see if it's a product of a porous opponent or if he's just gotten better. So a couple of things I want to look at when I'm curious to see if a guy's just generally better. First thing I want to do is go check out game log and understand the matchups that he's had. Who was his first 2 opponents or first 4: Cleveland, Minnesota, Cleveland, Houston. So xFIPs were really, really solid in all of those except the first game. And then I want to look at pitch type. Fastball sent around 95 mile an hour in all of those games. Backed it up with a sub 90 mile an hour slider, and then a little curveball, a little bit of changeup. So for reference sake, let's put that against. I guess let's go look at his history. So let's open up one more FanGraphs tab and look at Fulmer. What I want to do is cross-reference that velo and pitch usage over the last couple years of his career. So we are going to look at this right here. So fastball 95, slider, changeup, a little bit of curveball. So that's this season. So 93. So it looks like versus last season, his fastball's up 2 miles an hour. Same with his slider. So he gets closer to what he was doing in 2018. So last year we had 25 innings of sample size. and he didn't pitch at all in 2019. So if he gets closer to what he was doing in 2018, his SIERA and xFIP are still not great, but the swinging strike rate was definitely higher than 7.8%. So maybe he found a little bit of velo to help him out, and then of course maybe pitching coaches, whatever, they can get his spin rate to where it needs to be. And nothing else is egregious. Just looked like he added 2 miles per hour to every pitch so far this season. So we probably don't want to overreact to last season's metrics then. And then we work on this season. So with that said, the Pirates have been not like overly scary, right? A 240 average against righties, a 385 slugging. ISO's meh. They did have a couple of games against the Brewers where a couple of guys popped off. 1 through 4 of this projected Pirates lineup bat 270 plus, so a little bit intimidating. But for the most part, I'm not running from it. I will say the Pirates do pick up a DH here, so they don't get that free strikeout out of the pitcher spot. But overall, like 23, 24, 26, 32, 23% K rates for all but 3 players. Yeah, there's a 1 in 4K potential there if Fulmer is on point. So I think at 5'8" on DraftKings, I might take a shot or two on him. Last year, K percent was higher to lefties than righties, and this will probably be a more lefty heavy lineup. So I might get behind some Fulmer, but understand that it's not without risk this early into the season based on what his historical struggles have been in it. And even if he did well against the Pirates, understand that the Pirates are bad. So with that said, keep an eye on the weather here. It looks like there's 100% humidity. It's 35 degrees. So we like the cold, but we hate the rain. Maybe it snows. It's 35 degrees with a chance at rain. Does it get a little bit colder and snow? And if it snows, it's a bad for offense. So keep an eye on that. I don't think I get to any Tyler Anderson, although his metrics probably a little bit more sustainable than Fulmer. But 6'3", can I get to 10-15? Yeah, maybe from just punting, right? Literal chipping chairs, a 6'3", 5'8" for 15 fantasy points to give me some bats. I can get behind that. But understand there's no there's not a level of confidence behind either pitcher that I'm running to. And bomb rating wise, I got Phillip Evans over 4 and Renato Nunez, Jonathan Scope, and Jacoby Jones at 4+. So it's not fun. I don't think I'm going to target offenses in this cold weather, and I probably just end up avoiding this game. Hopefully it gets postponed. But yeah, let me double check on chat before we move on. All right, we good. Next game on the docket, Phillies hosting the Giants. Are we on the FanDuel main slate yet? Yes, we are. All right, so now we can talk both sites and understand the plus and minuses of pricing. Giants at Phillies. Logan Webb at Zach Wheeler. Logan Webb so far this season, a 3.85 SIERA, 3.52 xFIP. His metrics are below his ERA, suggesting that he's better than the results. 11% swing and strike rate so far, 11 innings of sample size. Again, sample size is everything. We're not dealing with a lot of sample size. We're just kind of observing where guys are, and that 1.76 whip is not what you want. On the Wheeler side of things, SIERA 3.49, 3.31. We know Wheeler's probably if you put all these pitchers, especially on FanDuel where you didn't get access to like a Zach Gallen, Louis Castillo, Wheeler's probably one of your better pitchers talent-wise. It's going against the Giants lineup that couldn't get it done with several opportunities in fair weather in the Miami game. So I'm hoping Wheeler can not die here. The only thing going against Wheeler here is this lineup for the Giants might be a little bit more lefty-heavy, and Wheeler does not necessarily bolster a high strikeout upside against lefties. We like to see him against a lot more righties. This year, a 34% K rate to righties, 23%. So if we're playing Wheeler, it's really just inning eating, and we're hoping for a strikeout here and there, and then maybe the win. Otherwise, we're hoping that the ball stays on the ground in the park, and we move on from there. Has not held a home run per 9 over 1 to either side of the plate since 2019, and that was against lefties. Outside of that, the home run rate really, really low. Ground ball rate's fine, and he's just really not allowing a lot of hard contact. So this is a Giants team. If they're going to put up some runs here, metrically, it suggests that they're going to have to do it with some small ball. So that's not impossible for some of these lefties. Tommy La Stella, Mike Yastrzemski, guys like that profile well. And then this bullpen, when the bullpen comes in, all bets are off. And Citizens Bank Park can be much, much more hitter friendly than Marlins Park, and then of course Oracle. So I think because of how condensed the FanDuel slate is, I'd probably think about getting to stacking some Giants, but it would be one of my low percentage stacks. The Phillies seem like a little bit more of a realistic stack, a little bit more sought after on the slate as well, with a 4.7 implied total. Going against Logan Webb, high average last year to righties, and a home run per 9 over 1 so far this season. And then something I like to do with these Giants pitchers is I like to see how they did on the road versus how they did at home when it comes to home runs allowed. So I'm going to pull up his FanGraphs card, Logan Webb's that is, and pull up his 2020 numbers. And the reason I do this is because the home park for the Giants is the #1 pitcher's park, and it can swallow some homers. So we're going to go to 2020 and look at home runs allowed. So he allowed 1 homer at home last year in 29 innings, but 3 on the road. And usually 1 homer for 10 innings is kind of the benchmark average. So I guess we would, another way to reference that would be the home run to fly ball rate versus a home versus away. So we scroll down to here and we find home run to fly ball rate. It was 8% at home, 12% on the road. So there is a 4% discrepancy there. All right, nothing to go crazy, but the ground ball to fly ball rate, 4.17 versus 1.44. That's interesting. With that in mind, I can go right to Bryce Harper, hit a bomb, I believe, yesterday. You might get maybe Didi here. Let's go look at the pitch report on what Logan Webb's going to bring to the table for this Phillies offense. Fastball, slider, cutter, changeup. So fastball, changeup, the 2 pitches I want to key in on. Both of those plus pitches for Bryce Harper. And yeah, so give me a little bit of this Phillies offense. And a little bit of Zach Wheeler, right? Nothing else egregious. What up, Lorenza? How we doing? Let's move on to the next game here. Nats hosting the Cardinals. Adam Wainwright. If I never have to see the Yankees face Adam Wainwright or Michael Wacha, it'll be a good day. Up against Patrick Corbin. Corbin looking to get right. Now, something we saw over the weekend was Steven Strasburg, after getting lit up his last start, instead of starting his game, just got put on the 10-day DL. Patrick Corbin also got absolutely smoked last start. So I wouldn't be stunned if it came out and they put him on the 10-day as well, and they just kind of soaked it to where they can milk the 5 days between starts and get into another 10-day rest. With that said, Strasburg had some leaks in spring training. Corbin's Corbin. Last game out against the Nationals, it was rough. He lasted 2 innings, allowed 6 hits, walked 4, and gave up 9 earnings with just 1 strikeout. This is back-to-back starts of just obliteration, and we're definitely going to do some diving into what's happening and what's not happening. So we're going to look at pitch type. Fastball sitting at 90, slider 77, and then the changeup and no curveball, just changeup. So let's pull up another FanGraphs Fab Go. What the is that? And then let's compare that to like his career numbers, right? So Corbin. Let's go down the pitch type just to see if there's any differences, because obviously something's not right. Corbin, a couple years back, was one of the more sought-after free agent pitchers, and first 2 games, like him and Strasburg lost their their special stuff, right? So pitch type. In 2020, a 90.2 mile an hour fastball, 92 in 2019, 81. So it looks like he's lost 2 miles per hour on velo in the last 2 years, and that changeup went from 82 to 77.8. So that's something to kind of point at. And then also his command so far has just been really, really bad. He's not putting pitches where you want it, and it's ugly. So it's one of those guys that you have to, or that I'll pick on until he proves to me that he's gotten it right and he's figured it out. A 23% walk rate to both sides of the plate so far. You know, you're going to see some weird numbers because of 6 innings of sample size. I'm willing to write off the Dodgers game. First game against the Dodgers. Dodgers are old division rivalry. Like, there's some familiarity there, and it's your first game. The D-backs game, he just did not look like a big league pitcher, and much less an ace, but a big league pitcher. It was bad. He's had a week to think about it, and now he's going against a Cardinals team that actually profiles pretty well against lefties. I mean, don't look now, but you got Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Yadi Molina, who hit 2 homers in a game over the weekend. I mean, this is a weird spot, and it's not like the Nats can abandon ship here, right? They gave Corbin that contract, and you're just gonna have to let him either figure it out or get your money's worth. And you're already wasting money on the IL with Strasburg right now, and they gave him a fat contract. So Nats could be really down bad if Strasburg and Corbin don't figure it out. With that said, I got to pick on Corbin until I don't. And Goldie, Arenado, Yachty, probably 3 names I'm going to have a lot. Paul DeJong hit 2 homers yesterday, including a grand slam, I believe. So a team that's going to come into this Nats game with some momentum. Over the last week, there's I got a team ISO of 180, and then so far on the season against lefties, they're crushing them. 300 plus average, a 221 team ISO. Yeah, I gotta start with a card stack, and right now the Cardinals have a implied run total of 4.6. And to help out these power righties, I'm showing wind blowing out to left center, so pull hitters will benefit from that. So yeah, you got to give me some cards bats here. I'm a buyer on them in this matchup. On the Nats side against Wainwright. Wainwright this season, a low K rate, even though his swing and strike rate's at 12.3%. So seems like that's going to get a little bit better. Fly ball rate is lower than his ground ball rate, and he's throwing strikes, a sub 8% walk rate so far. Against the Nats, I mean, Trey Turner, Juan Soto, definitely 2 guys I'll be going after. Turner, of course, will give us that stolen base potential. However, against Yadi Molina, you know, that's one of those matchups that you love to watch, how Yadi performs with Trey Turner on the base path. I definitely could get behind some Nats stacks here, but the Cardinals look a little bit juicier because of the matchup with Corbin. I will say after the D-backs dropped 9 or 10 on Corbin, they only got 1 more run off of the Nats bullpen. Bullpen Sierra is doing a lot better than their or a lot worse than their batting average allowed, but a 1.92 home run per 9, and not a whole lot of strikeouts so far for this Nats bullpen. So yeah, I'll be on some Cardinal stacks here, and no Corbin. Probably no Wainwright. 5.9K is interesting if he ate some innings and got you 15 fantasy points, but unless this Nationals lineup comes out like really different, like Wainwright definitely is somebody I want to pick on, especially with lefties. Last 3 seasons against lefties, Wainwright has had a 1.7 or greater home run per 9 to lefties. So Juan Soto has an over 4 bomb rating in the bomb detector, and so does Kyle Schwarber. So Soto's in a really good spot. He's 5.9K. Gotta go up there and get him. But with that, Lorenzo says, I love Corbin today. Come on, Lorenzo. What are we doing? Why? Is it just you hope he gets right and you play him before everyone else does? I don't think that's crazy. 7.2K. You don't need a whole lot, right? I mean, this guy could have been a 10K pitcher 2 years ago. So, like, if you expect that he figured it out, he went, watched some videos, fixed his mechanics, whatever, sure. But, man, he did not look solid. I will also say, if we're trying to make excuses in that last start, it was very windy. Maybe the wind jacked with him and whatnot. But so far, it's yikes. And it's not even just this season, though. Like, even if I dig into last season, 58 innings of sample size, a 321 average allowed, a 1.37. Like, if I knew nothing about his metrics this season, last season, that's a pitcher I want to pick on with these righties. So I don't know, man. I couldn't see myself getting there, but somewhere in him is a good pitcher, right? Blue Jays at the Red Sox. Next game on the docket, Hunyin Ryu up against Eduardo Rodriguez. A battle of the Southpaws. We got an implied run total 4.3 for the Blue Jays, 4.3 for the Red Sox. So essentially a pick 'em. 63 degrees out there in Fenway. I don't think I've watched any Fenway on the main slate yet. Yeah, I kind of like this game for several ranges of outcomes. The Blue Jays, outside of their homes, a couple of their home games in Dunedin, haven't looked great. A 214 road average with a OPS of 621. I mean, that's not great. We do get a park boost here versus Kaufman in the last couple days going into Fenway. And the Red Sox have been okay. Both these teams are really competing in the AL East right now. Red Sox are, I believe, in first place. So that's intriguing. Hunyin Ryu, probably one of the better pitchers on the slate, just from a talent standpoint. He is 8.7 on DK. Probably could be a little bit more expensive than that. I'd still consider him. I do like, obviously, Kike Hernandez, JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts. Like, these are all tough bats on lefties. But Ryu's been just fine. So, probably going to be one of those head spots where I have a little bit of both. But so far this season, Ryu's been elite. 14.4% swing and strike rate, 12.3% last season. Sierra's been great the last 4 years collectively. Swing and strike rate's great. Like, it's all metrics that I don't want to pick on and I probably want to play. So I'll probably get to some Ryu, but in 150 lineups, 5 or 6 Red Sox stacks in my back pocket will probably be there, featuring the usual suspects, Kike and JD Martinez. To kind of put that in perspective, you guys know how much of lefty masters Kike and JD have been. JD barely got to a 4 on the bomb detector, which is still great, but nobody else, including Kike, has a rating worth mentioning. So, yeah, I'd probably be there on some Ryu and just kind of bet on talent. And then Eduardo Rodriguez, kind of the same thing, right? He's a solid pitcher when he's on. He can get in trouble, walk hitters in years past, but so far this season has shown a little bit of a power problem to righties and a 296 batting average allowed, but the xFIP is great, 299 xFIP, so it looks like he's getting a little unlucky. And since we're classes in session, I'm curious to see what his BABIP is so far. So BABIP is batting average on balls in play, and this kind of is a metric you can reference to understand if a hitter or pitcher is getting lucky or unlucky. So we're going to go to his BABIP on the card. And so far this season, he's had a 280 BABIP, which actually isn't that crazy, but maybe the home run per 9 is what's killing him. Home runs are not balls in play. So if he's allowed like a couple of wall scrapers or something like that, maybe that's what's jacking him up. He has a 25% home run to fly ball rate. So 10%, 12% is kind of where most pitchers will live. He's historically lived at 13, 11%. So it looks like that's kind of the disconnect here. The xFIP is great, but the home run to fly ball rate's a little bit higher than average, and that's probably where he's getting unlucky. I don't know the context of his homers, whether they're pesky pole hookers or something like that. I could see how that sounds weird if you don't know about Fenway's pesky pole, but yeah, okay. So both pitchers look like they're talented enough to take some stabs on. If I wanted to chip and chair some homers here against Erod, I'm probably looking at maybe a Grichuk, maybe a Marcus Semien, and then if I'm looking for a power shot on Ryu, probably a JD and a Kike. But outside of that, like, the metrics are fine. I don't necessarily want to beat them up, right? Let's move on to the next game. Mets at the Cubs. Taijuan Walker taking on Jake Arrieta. We've got a 38-degree game here in Wrigley Field. Should be really, really cold. 4 implied run total for the Mets. 3.6 implied run total for the Cubs. Cold weather, usually a boost for pitching. You're going to get some cold bodies with baseball bats coming to the plate, and the air is going to be a little bit more dense, and balls just don't travel as far. Walker so far this season, pretty solid. 2.61 ERA. Looks like he's gotten better results than his skill. 3.88 Sierra. But the swinging strike rate at 12%, it's really, really good. And he's one of those guys that we haven't got a deep season from in a while. Last year, 50 innings, and that was a shortened season. And still, 50 innings is not a giant pool of sample size to deal from, but it's all we got if we look at his last 3 years, which is really his last 4 years. He didn't pitch in 2019. Against the Cubs, hey, Cubs are batting under 200 against righties as a team, under 200 at home this season. The ISO's okay, but the strikeout potential is there. So I don't mind 7-7, 7-6 taking a couple of stabs at Walker, just hoping that this temperature boost kind of helps him out here. And his ground ball to fly ball rate, more so against righties, is higher ground ball rate than fly ball rate. And then, of course, fly balls in this temperature might just die out. The line drive rate is a little bit alarming. A 33% line drive rate to lefties, a 33% to righties so far this season, and it was elevated to righties last season. But the Cubs, I think their best bats are mainly going to be their lefties. Wilson Contreras, Chris Bryant, the two righties to really be worried about. Javi Baez kind of trickled off. But look at these K rates against righties. 25, 25, 24, 22, 30, 26. So there's a lot of strikeout potential. So I really might get behind some Taijuan Walker here. And just because I'm thinking about it, I'm going to cross-reference the pitch report here. Fastball 93.5, slider. So he has a nice little pitch selection. I'm curious to see if his velo has gone up or down or stayed the same so far this season. So real quick, game logs, Taijuan Walker, and pitch type. 94, 95. So 95 is about what I had, right? Actually, it's not what I had. Is this fastball gone up 2 miles an hour? That could be very encouraging. Let's go to last season. So we got 95 on the fastball. Really, on average, it got like 94.8, right? And then sliders at 93 and 85. 93, 85, 95. So he's gained 2 miles an hour on his two primary pitches. So that's something to watch. That's very interesting. Ian Happ does crush that slider. If he's in that leadoff spot, he might smoke one. Anthony Rizzo had a double homer game over the weekend as well. I believe that was in that Sunday night game against the Braves. So, yeah, I might get to some Walker. I might talk myself into that. Arrieta is not a guy we ever played for strikeouts this year. 6.6% swinging strike rate, lower than his last 3 years at 7%. He's going to pitch the contact. His gimmick is to pitch for contact, get ground ball outs, eat innings, and go on about his business. So far this season, his ground ball rate really, really low, almost alarmingly low, a 46% fly ball rate and a 27% ground ball rate. We expect that to progress naturally, but it is something worth mentioning. I don't really know that I can manufacture, I guess, as to why this is happening, but it is something I probably want to look into. His line drive rate has been elevated to both sides of the plate for years now. So I don't want to pitch Arrieta. I'll probably pitch Walker just because it looks like there's at least hope for some strikeouts here. With Jake Arrieta, you kind of know what you're going to get at best. That's a contact pitcher eating some innings. And because of the temperature and whatnot, he might get through 7 innings and not be the worst play, but I at least want a little bit of strikeout potential if I have enough pitchers to choose from. So give me a little bit of Walker here. And then, man, if this wasn't a winter Wonderland game against Arrieta, I would probably fashion some of these lefties, maybe a Nimmo, a Dom Smith, or something like that. Jeff McNeil, great hit for average. There's a lot of hit for average bats in this lineup, so maybe I would parlay a couple of Met stacks, but I wouldn't get too invested because of the park, or the park factors, or the environment factors rather. Let's see what you guys got. The Braves lineup came out with no Acuna. Interesting. All right, so looking at that, I wonder if it looks like somebody's been updating. So I'm guessing Nicrizi's been updating. So just to run back real quick, chat, and look at this Braves lineup again. This game's just on the DraftKings slate. They're going to lead off Ehire Adrianza. Then Freeman, Ozuna, Darno, Albies, Pablo Sandoval, I guess he's DHing, Dansby Swanson, Austin Riley, and Guillermo Heredia. So Acuna definitely a massive, massive absence from this lineup. But I probably still get into Freeman and Ozuna all day. Probably some Travis d'Arnaud for the heck of it. But yeah, Acuna is a massive, massive drop. Like his team war is probably dumb. Like dumb. All right, let's move on to the next game here. Actually, let me get caught up on chat. How we doing, chat? You love a pesky pole hooker. Sometimes I wish YouTube had clips, and then sometimes I'm happy that they don't. That's one of those times I'm happy that they don't. Let's get to the Royals game here. All right, Rays at the Royals continue this series. Rich Hill, the lefty curveball thrower in his twilight years. I think he's over 40 now. Brad Keller, the contact righty for the Royals. Neither pitcher is missing bats to be viable or lucrative for fantasy. Rich Hill going into last season, a sub 7% swinging strike rate. Brad Keller, it's 8% and below. So a lot of pitch to contact and let your defense do the work here. Rays have been really, really bad when they're not playing the Yankees. A 215 average against righties, a 214 road average, and the ISO. All the numbers are not great and a high K rate. The Royals hit for a much better average against lefties, a much better ISO. And then they do have some Swiss Army knife potential in the top of this lineup. Guys like Whit Merrifield, if he gets on, he can steal some bags. And so far, Mike Zunino has been really, really bad defensively. I still don't think he's caught a base runner. He's allowed a lot of stolen bases. So Merrifield, definitely somebody that would be introduced into the player pool. Temps in the mid-40s. There's a lot of cold games still. Matter of fact, I saw this morning on Facebook that my area, Texas, in the next couple days, we're going to get back down to 40 degrees. And I'm like, man, we're knocking on May's front door, man. Where's the spring weather at? Jorge Soler. Also, earlier I talked about the merit in playing power guys with high K rates against low swinging strike rate guys. Jorge Soler is kind of one of those guys. 27% K rate to lefties over the course of the last 2 seasons, but a 500 slugging and almost a 47% hard contact rate. He's got a bomb rating over 4, so does Hunter Dozier. So it's the perfect guy to kind of think about if he's going to be challenged with making contact. He can do just fine. Rich Hill's fly ball rate to righties so far this season, just 35%, continuing his trend from the last couple of years. But his home run per 9, 3.18 this season, 1.84 2 seasons ago. Last year it was sub 1. There's a chip in the chair for a bomb there. Like I said, Rich Hill's going to throw a lot of curveballs. And Jorge Soler is actually a negative grade against curveballs. But with Merrifield, Carlos Santana, Benintendi, and Michael A. Taylor all project pretty well in the last 2 seasons, or since the beginning of last season, against the curveball. So I'm going to have a couple Royals stuff, but I feel like the Royals and the Giants are getting me in trouble a lot this year. Like, I keep stacking them in Cinderella spots, and it just doesn't come through. And I can see myself getting into that same rut here. But I think Merrifield is just going to be in the pool no matter what. And then Santana Soler. So at least 1, 2, and 4. I probably wouldn't rule out Salvi if he fell into a stack, but at 5K, not necessarily a priority. And then Hanser Alberto, I forgot he's on the Royals. You guys might remember him from the Baltimore Orioles. 2,300 on FanDuel, 3K on DraftKings. I'm pretty sure he is the best average against lefties in the last 2 years, like with sample size. Like, it's dumb. So maybe I don't rule out Alberto in the lineup. I guess maybe I should go Hanser instead of Albert. Let's put a little sample size on that versus lefties numbers. I know that's a controversial topic, is lefty splits, but with sample size, for me, there's no reason not to get there. So far last year, a 343 average against left, or that this year is 154 and 13 at bats. Last year it was 375. In 2019, it was 398. So that's dumb. So I might actually include Alberto if he's right there in the meat of the order. Nice little hit for average guy. Not going to get power out of him, but a nice little hit for average guy. And if he's got some ducks on the pond, maybe you get a couple of ribbies and turn into home run numbers, right? Salvi's due for one. Yeah, I definitely, like, I wouldn't exclude Salvi in a stack, but yeah. On the against Keller, so far this season he's allowed power to lefties, but there's not really a reason to not expect regression because his other metrics are not different per se. Like last year's ground ball rate was 53% to lefties, and his hard contact was even higher. So I don't expect him to hold a 1.69 home run per nine with a 56% ground ball rate and a sub 30% hard contact rate, and the fly ball rate's fine as well. So I'm gonna assume that his BABIP is probably pretty high, considering it's only 10 innings in sample size. So I expect that to go down, so I don't think I'm going to pick on him based on this stat, at least not for power. The highest bomb detector guys for the Rays here, Austin Meadows, Brandon Lau, 3.86, 3.8. So not anything to go out of my way. Remember, today we made that small change, so 3.8 isn't as menacing as it was yesterday. So yeah, I'm not on the Rays, but I can't really get behind playing the Brad Keller. Maybe at 5.4, you're playing him in the SP2 spot and you treat 5,400 as a hitter. So like from that price from a hitter, you're looking for home run points, 14, 16. Could you get 14, 16? Maybe, but that's not a fun click. Speaking of fun clicks, let's go to Coors. Rockies hosting the Astros. Luis Garcia taking on John Gray. Luis Garcia, 7.7K on DraftKings. John Gray, 7.3K. So far, Coors has been pretty neutralized by bad offense and cold weather. And today, two offenses that have implied run totals over 5 because Coors is Coors. But the weather, 37 degrees. So another cold game today. Garcia, let's pull up his Fangraphs card. I do want to make sure that I don't know how to say this. Okay, I can display it. Look how many Luis Garcias. When these names that are really common pop up, I'm scared that my stat feed is pulling somebody else and I just don't know it, right? Like a John Smith or something like that. So I want to double check all that with these guys. So right now it's pulling up a Washington Luis Garcia, which means I definitely need to make sure that the spreadsheet's displaying the right Garcia. They list him as like Luis H. Garcia on some of these sites, so this is the one that we're looking at. Houston Astros. So I want to double check splits real quick while I'm on the air. So if you guys have been using the VIP spreadsheet, just know there's a slight chance that it might not be him. So a quick way to reference that: 222 average to righties, 182 average to lefties, and 222. Okay, so we're getting the right info on him. So far this year, really good swing and strike rate numbers, 13% overall, 10+% the last couple years. I don't have much info on him, so I'm gonna do some freestyle digging. 4.1 innings against Detroit, 62 pitches. I don't think I mean, it's a Coors pitcher. It looks like he might not be stretched out for 80 pitches. So no reason for me to really play Garcia. And then John Gray, I don't know if I get to him. So the Astros, we talked about some teams gaining the DH spot, like the Braves. Astros actually lose the DH spot going into Coors. So this lineup's looking like Brantley, Bregman. We'll see if so Altuve's not back yet. They had 4 guys on the COVID list, and Bregman, I believe, was one of them. It looks like he's projected to be back today. So Brantley, Bregman, Gurriel, Correa. I guess there's a couple numbers I'd go after, but really John Gray has been just fine at home to not get blown up. A 2.87 ERA this season is definitely better results-wise than his SIERA and xFIP. Swing and strike rate is pretty low. I mean, this is one of those, it's Coors Field, but it's also 37 degrees, so that's the analysis. I I don't think I play. Yeah, I'm probably not gonna play either pitcher. There's not really swing and strike rate stuff to encourage me for strikeout potential anyway. Um, and then we'll see what this Astros lineup comes out as. If Miles Straw leads off in Coors, he's probably too cheap on both sides to not acknowledge. Same with Raimel Tapia. We're not really getting that Coors tax that we've seen in years past, like Charlie Blackmon, Trevor Story being under 4K on FanDuel. Yeah. Luis Garcia's biggest leaks this year's against homers or power against righties. And then the bullpen for the Astros has been average of 4 Sierra, 2.19 home run per nine, 24% K rate. And the Rockies bullpen has been just really, really bad. So we're stacking Coors just for the heck of it. I was really hoping to kind of spin my way off of Coors. I don't know where Coors lands in terms of owned by the field. I would imagine just looking at implied run totals, both teams already have the highest implied run totals on the slate. So I imagine people just get there because you can, and it's not like 11K pitching to pay up for. I was really hoping to spin my way out of it, but the only thing I can really spin negatively for this game is 37 degrees, so it's gonna be cold. That's all I got. Like we'll get into some cores, we'll get into some bullpens here, and hope that the talent rises to the top. Outside of that, we'll move on to the next game. What's up, Sean? Lorenzo said only playing Edmonds, Carlson, Arenado. I'm with that. So far, the Cards are probably my favorite stack that's that we've discussed. I do like, and it's not chasing Corbin's blow up last start. It's looking at Corbin from the beginning of the last season. He's just not been great, especially against righties. So last start's probably a little anomalic in terms of 9 runs, 2 innings, but he's just been really bad against lefties. And Goldie, Arenado, Yachty, Paul DeJong, all guys signed me up against an average lefty. And there's really not a reason to give Corbin the benefit of the doubt of being that much more than an average lefty right now. I think we know he can be, but if we look into the beginning of the last season, he hasn't been. You're off course completely. I wish they would bring back the Coors tax. You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone in Coors is 5K or more, and it's not been that way. And I get it. Like, Coors has been trashed. The other day, I think the Rockies had 4 balls in play against DeGrom. They're just really bad. But, it could benefit. It rewards the people that go after Coors, take that risk at 5K, and then it doesn't. And if you fade it, you don't get bailed out by the game. Like, was the Rockies went to extras against, was it the D-backs? They went to extras against the D-backs, and it went to like 14, 15 innings, and people nickel and dime their way to value, and it was just kind of tilting, right? If you faded Coors that night, it was the right play for 8 innings, and then Coors went Coors on them. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I wish it costs more to get to Coors, but I don't think that's a bad thing. It can reward the people that gamble on it, and then if you fade it, like, you don't feel like you're fading it to fade it. You know? I don't know. Rangers at the Angels. Jordan Lyles taking on Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani on the bump. I don't know if Ohtani's doing the thing where he forgoes the DH here. In the projected lineup, I don't see Ohtani in it. So we'll see if that's the case. His last start on Sunday Night Baseball, he hit and pitched. I did read that it looked like they were going to keep Ohtani on like a 75 pitch limit. So we'd be cognitive of that. But Jordan Lyles is the Rangers pitcher here. Ohtani for the Angels. Lyles so far this season, not great numbers. High ERA, SIERA, xFIP. The swing and strike rate is above 11% though. That's something to build some hope on, because that's the highest of his career so far. Just 15 innings of sample size, and the walk rate has almost been cut in half versus what he's been doing the last 2 years. So there is some stuff to be happy about. You'd want to see that ground ball rate come up, that fly ball rate to go down. But the line drive rate is fine. So if he's just going to be a fly ball pitcher, he's just going to be a fly ball pitcher. So far this season, a 3.12 home run per nine to righties, a 1.35 to lefties. Continuing his power allowed numbers from the last 2 years. If you guys played Ohtani and Trout last night, you got that big fat combined 0. That was tough. I'm willing to go back to the well tonight. I think this is one of those things where you can't play Ohtani as a hitter today, because he's a pitcher and sites can't figure out a happy medium on what to do with Ohtani. I think Yahoo has Ohtani pitcher, or at least season long has Ohtani pitcher and Ohtani hitter. So you can't play Ohtani's bat if he did crack the lineup, and I don't know that he would, but if he did, you couldn't play him anyway. So it's really just Mike Trout, Jared Walsh, and Upton's got a couple of homers to his name on the season so far. So Trout's probably, one of my favorite plays on the slate. He has the highest bomb rating with sample. Dom Nunez has a higher bomb rating, but it's a lot less sample to him. A 4.35 bomb rating with a 1.02 G rating. So yeah, Mike Trout should be the play of the day. Oh no, guns touting Mike Trout. Oh no. And then Jared Walsh is just really, really good at baseball. Against lefties, Jordan Lyles, a 1.35 home run per 9 this year, 1.5 last year. He's just really, really shown power allowed to lefties. And you might see this walk rate come up. A 6.5% walk rate to lefties is definitely by far and away his best number to lefties in the last 4 years. So maybe that goes backwards a little bit, regress to the mean, and gets closer to the 10% number. But the 70% fly ball rate is that's challenging. That's challenging some lefty poppers. So I like Walsh and Trout as a handcuff. I wouldn't be against an Upton or a Fletcher if I'm getting to stacks, and I probably would get to stacks here. But my favorite handcuff here is Walsh. And yeah, last night Albert Pujols stole a base. That was fun. I think it was a double steal, but still, he stole a base. Ohtani as a play at 7,500. This is a weird spot to be in because we feel like we're giving ourselves a glass ceiling with pitches. It says Ohtani blistered would be limited to around 75 pitches during Tuesday's start against the Rangers. That takes the top off, right? Like, you don't know, like 75 pitches on an elite game. Like, if you're getting 15 pitches in an inning, like maybe you're getting through 5 or 6 with a quick hook. Rangers have been bad, right? Could Ohtani get to value in 75 pitches at 7.5, right? We're looking for 16 to 20 fantasy points. Maybe that's again. Maybe I don't have zero Ohtani because of that. But on FanDuel, it's a little harder to give him that quality start upside. So probably on DraftKings, I'd allow him to fall as an SP2 where he will. I don't get to Jordan Lyles. Angels definitely let me down last night, but goldfish memory here. And then there's no one necessarily I want to pick on Ohtani with from the Rangers. Coming out of this bullpen, though, for the Angels, let me look at them. We saw Claudio, Cishek, Slegers, and Watson. So we didn't see the closer, Iglesias. Junior Guerra could be a long man if he needed to be. He used to start in Milwaukee. So maybe we see some Guerra bridging here. So if Guerra came in, an average righty, might take a shot on him with a Gallo or a Calhoun or something like that. Adolis Garcia has shown some pop so far this season. He's been pretty cheap on both sites, but really no one I'm going out of my way to target here because you got to get to Ohtani first to get to those guys, right? Let me get you guys in the chat before we move on. Sean says Matt Harvey's the sneaky pitcher nobody will play, bro. What? I'm not playing Harvey, so yeah, sure, sneaky. Also, I just noticed on the cam, I'm in front of the border. How did that happen? Boom. Now we're behind the border. Are we? No. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. I am. I definitely am. I'm in front of the border. If I drag it down, there we go. I think. No, it just keeps sending me right above it. That's weird. Who you liking? Josh Bell's due to go off. Hit a double last night, but all 3 of his batted balls were hit hard. 110, 105, 108. I definitely don't mind that call. I do like the Nats lefties. You like Matt Harvey? I kind of I want to reverse engineer this call and see why you like him. I'm not. I don't know why you do. Looking at, is it the matchup that you're looking at him to just be a better pitcher than the hitters, or The ballpark. I don't know. I know in spring training people were trying to like hype up his velo, but I wasn't buying it. We got one game left on the docket. We'll do a pause for the cause. If you guys want to use this spreadsheet for your daily lineup construction needs, I think it's a wonderful resource. You guys can get access to this by going to rundfs.com, making yourself an account, clicking VIP passes, grab a week pass. Once you do that, you'll get access to the VIP thread area. And then you click on the VIP onboarding. There'll be a link to the baseball spreadsheet, a link to the basketball spreadsheet, and a link to the rundfs.com VIP Discord, which looks a little something like this. I reset my stuff. So there is 24/7 baseball chat, NBA chat, everything to keep you connected. Bot Dacker hooking us up with info when it drops. So even if you're not just a baseball player, you play basketball, definitely a great community for you guys to be part of. I brag on them all the time. Russ on this season, on this year alone, is probably up $250,000. Freaking Always Be Placing has a second millionaire maker win in the last 5 months, and a lot of guys that grind all different bankroll levels, all different stakes. We've seen some fun sweats in the last week. ECW, right? He's out here balling on a budget. He's got a couple of nights where he's hit, just 800, 1K, right? No matter where you're playing at, what level. If you're grinding quarters, you're grinding $1. You belong. You belong where we are, man. As long as you love sports and you're chill, we're there. Also, a lot of MLB The Show enthusiasts there. So if you guys are into MLB The Show, come hang out. We'll probably do a group sesh tonight, too. We're all just grinding our moments in our Diamond Dynasty team and probably chilling in the voice chat. So come be part of that. Main event tonight, the Brewers at the Padres. Corbin Burnes up against Chris Paddock. When it comes to the main slate for FanDuel, these are probably two of your better 4 pitchers in terms of talent and pitch count. Matter of fact, Chris Paddock is listed at 6,900. Nice. So Corbin Burnes has been really, really, really good. Like Cy Young type levels of good. He's going against a Padres team that, although on paper they have some household names that you don't want to go out of your way to pick on, they still have some strikeout potential in this lineup. Tatis at 28%, Hosmer 24%, Will Myers 31%, Caratini 22%, the pitcher spot. So I definitely think Corbin Burnes can get to strikeouts at a decent clip. And when he's not, he's just really hard to barrel up anyway. So I'm with that as well. I think I read earlier that Brandon Woodruff hasn't allowed a barrel yet. Is that what it was? Woodruff? That's crazy if that's true. Corbin Burnes also somebody that doesn't allow a lot of well hit balls against him. So 10.8K on DraftKings, 10.5 on FanDuel. Value subjective, right? If we had a slate full of studs, you probably don't feel warm and fuzzy about a near 11K pitcher against the likes of Tatis, Machado, right? Like it's menacing. But value subjective, right? If Corbin Burnes drops 25 fantasy points, he might be a top 3, top 4 pitching scorer on the slate. And then at that point, that dog will hunt and it'll get you to the dance. And there's not a whole lot of 5, 6K stacks to go after. Last 3 starts, 10, 9, 11 strikeouts, 30 plus DKP. Twins is a good offense. Card at St. Louis and Chicago, a little bit weaker opponents, but the stuff is there. You like to see that pitch count get over 90, but the fact that he's doing all this in 80 pitches is even arguably more impressive. The fact, think about that, 81 pitches and Ohtani's on a 75 pitch cap. Maybe that opens up Ohtani for me a little bit more. But he's just been really, really doggone good. So I'm definitely going to get to some Corbin Burnes here. Chris Paddock's a little bit more of a question mark, a guy that's kind of regressed based on the hype, based on what his underlying metrics coming into the big leagues suggested. 6,900 on FanDuel versus 10K on DraftKings. So if you think he's a good pitcher, he's a much better FanDuel play value-wise than on DraftKings, where on DraftKings, the need for that 25 DKP is even higher, and it seems like that's a little bit more questionable. With that said, His biggest problems have come against lefties. Like against righties, he's holding his own. He's almost got some Dylan Bundy-esque stuff going on here. 25, 30% K rate against righties. But the K rate to lefties plummets, and the xFIP to righties stays at 3.5 or less, but it goes up to well over 4 against lefties. This Brewers team will be pretty lefty heavy. JBJ, Omar Narvaez, Travis Shaw. I don't see Yelich in the lineup, so it's not like these are menacing lefties, but they're lefties nonetheless. So again, I think I could get there on FanDuel as a play for Paddock, but DraftKings, I think it's the need for the margin of error is a lot lower. 5-4-4, 17 DKP against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh lefty heavy, but oof, 10K for Paddock. I'm not sure what the algorithm's doing here. I kind of like the 6.9 price though on FanDuel, but just from a talent standpoint, Corbin Burns, one of the best pitchers in baseball. Definitely an early guy to watch for National League Cy Young contenders. I think Joe Musgrove's in that conversation as well after last night. Brandon Woodruff. There's some really good names, young guys out there. Burns is definitely somebody to watch. And against the Padres team, definitely got some talent on his team, but they also have some strikeout propensity, right? That is our slate. We did get a couple lineups come out while we're on, so if you want, I'll lap back and retouch on that. I think Jax is working on the NBA spreadsheet, so I had to get off and need an hour to get NBA right. Hopefully, I'll do an NBA stream in like 45 minutes ish, right? And then we'll be all right. But if you guys got any questions, comments, concerns in chat, throw them at me. If you guys got any bold calls, pick something like that, throw them at me. Just to look at the hitter rating chart real quick and just kind of see where the algorithm is at on projecting homers for us today. Top of the list here, there's Dom Nunez, but I'm sure that's going to be stifled by small sample size. Trout, Blackman, Olsen, Garver, a couple Twins are up here. Anthony Santander, Jazz Chisholm. Yeah, so there are a couple guys that are probably influenced by low sample size, but a lot of 4+. Remember, we did add StatCast barrel rate data into the bomb detector. So a lot of these 408s and 410s were probably going to be like 3.8s yesterday. So don't go crazy just because you see all these 4s. The barrel rate data is impacting this enough. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind. If no Yelich, he might be a steal on FanDuel. Oh, for Paddock, yeah. Definitely lock in Paddock on DK. Is Yelich in the line? I don't have Yelich in the projected line. All right, let me go get caught up on some of the lineups that did come out. We did catch that Braves lineup. The Marlins lineup came out. Just see if there's any surprises in this one. Shout out to Nakrizi keeping this updated. Corey Dickerson, Rojas, Jesus Aguilar, Duvall batting fourth, Anderson. So against Matt Harvey, all these guys are bunched together, guys that I would like. Corey Dickerson is probably my favorite Marlin. Still leading off. I love that. What else did we get? We got D-backs and Reds lineups. Again, keep an eye on weather for this one. Pavin Smith leading off for the D-backs. Calhoun, Asdrubal, Peralta, Carson Kelly. Man, this lineup is not great. D-backs lineup, not great. And then the Reds lineup, Winker, that's about as expected. I like Castillo a little bit more now, but I really need that rain news, the weather news for them. No Ketel Marte for the D-backs still. I mean, they're down bad. Against lefties, a 26% K rate the last 2 years for Castillo. Has allowed a heightened average allowed and home run per line this season, but there's not a sample size to go crazy about that. So I will get to some Castillo for sure. Matter of fact, Castillo throws that changeup quite a bit, right? Let me double check on the D-backs performances against that changeup. So we got Asdrubal, Carson Kelly. Yeah, I like Castillo a little bit more after looking at that line. What else came out? The Tigers lineup came out. Right here, Robbie Grossman, Nico Goodrum. Man, dude, look at all these switchies, bro. No Miggy on the IL still. Again, watch for this weather. This one is the real big weather concern. We got the Phillies lineup. Matt Joyce leading off for the Phillies. So a little lefty going there against Logan Webb's lefty numbers so far. A 4.48 average allowed. Matt Joyce, bare bones min on FanDuel. That's a pathway to Corbin Burns. Bryce Harper's there. Realmuto's there. Mickey Moniak's there. The bottom of this lineup gets a little bit who's that but you can give me Joyce, Harper, Realmuto. Looks like no Didi Gregorius today. So definitely downgrades a little bit, but Brad Miller, Matt Joyce, a couple of cheap lefties here with the wind blowing out. I can get behind that. What else do we get? We get like a Cardinals lineup. Edmund, Goldie, Arenado, Yachty, Carlson. Dude, 1 through 6 against Corbin. Sign me up. Then we got the Red Sox lineup. Christian Arroyo is batting second. I'll type this real quick. Christian Arroyo, JD Martinez, Bogarts. Vasquez is batting fifth. Marwin Gonzalez is batting sixth. Hunter Renfroe, Bobby Dalbec, and Kevin Plawecki. Dude, do they have 2 catchers in the lineup? Are they DHing a catcher? They got Vasquez and Plawecki. Oof. This is your number 1 team in the AL East right now. Gotta love it. So, I guess JD and Xander still the stuff to watch there. No other lineups out. So, that's no curveballs. Red Sox looks bad. The D-backs look bad. But nothing crazy, right? Castillo sucks in the cold. Can't play that mega chalk. Sucks in the cold. Is that a thing? I'm not saying it's not. But how do we quantify that? Like, you don't think the D-backs suck in the cold? What is that based off of? Like, how do you quantify a pitcher's performance in, what is it? 47 degrees? Like, is there a no? Like, I'm definitely not challenging the take. I'm just genuinely curious how you quantify that. So, Pittsburgh, at home, Pittsburgh, 47. Like, what was temperature, Cincinnati, April 7th, 2021? Like, is that Googleable? So, this is one of the weird things I've looked up. On April 7th, it was 53 degrees as your low, 64 as your high. And today it's 47. So it's a 6-degree difference in low, and the high is at 64. And in that game against the Pirates, he dropped 27 in 81 pitches. I don't know, man. It's kind of aggressive to say sucks in the cold. Yeah, Arizona could definitely be pesky, though. And I don't mind stacking the ballpark, right? Great American Ballpark, one of the more hitter-friendly environment or parks on the slate dimension-wise. But the lineup just looks not great. I got one guy on this lineup batting over 260 against righties, and Castillo's a above-average pitcher. And he does better against lefties from a strikeout standpoint. So I play both sides of that, but I'm probably more on the Castillo side. But I may just be off of it if the weather takes it from me, you know, if I'm worried about mid-game rain delay or something like that. It's 47. I'm showing 47, Sean, on Labs. It says 47 degrees, so maybe double check that. All right, chat, I'm going to get out of here for now and try and prep up real quick for maybe a quick NBA stream. Small slate on NBA. Reminder tonight, the DraftKings main slate for MLB is earlier. It starts at 6:30, 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. And then the main slate on FanDuel is 7:05. So there's a 30-minute gap, and then the main slate for NBA is 7:30. So you get 3 main slates. You can focus one side at a time and one sport at a time, and then you go on from there. And then the NBA slate's small as well. So that's going to be it. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. If you guys are going to work on some basketball as well tonight, I'll be back in a little bit and chop up tonight's NBA slate. It has been wild. Yesterday was wild. I expect more wildness, a lot of wild stuff. Stop saying wild. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I hope you guys crush it. And hopefully I'll see most of you guys here in a little bit on the NBA stream. Good luck. God bless. Go win some money. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Peace.